Hi, this is Scott Garibay, and today we are going to be talking about the year 2000, the 27th year of Dungeons & Dragons history. And we're going to talk about the year 2000 in Dungeons & Dragons history through the filter of clear: catalyst, location, entity, artifact, and relationship. All right, so who is the catalyst for Dungeons & Dragons in the year 2000? Excuse me. He is a gentleman by the name of Alfred Verrecchia. He is the chairman of Hasbro in the year 2000. Now, in September of 1999, Hasbro purchases Wizards of the Coast. They acquire Dungeons & Dragons. They also acquire the Pokemon trading card game, and they also acquire Magic the Gathering. Okay? Now, this is a huge change. So 2000 will be the first full year that Hasbro owns Wizards of the Coast, owns Magic the Gathering, owns Dungeons & Dragons, owns the Pokemon collectible card game. Okay? Now, this is a massive change in the history of Dungeons & Dragons. It also brings up the question of Peter Atkinson and Alfred Verrecchia, right? Both are men who are in the position of leadership within the companies that acquire Dungeons & Dragons in quick succession. So, Dungeons & Dragons is acquired by Wizards of the Coast from TSR. Actually, Wizards of the Coast buys TSR and subsequently acquires Dungeons & Dragons in 1997, and then right quick, within 3 years, the Wizards of the Coast, including Dungeons & Dragons, is now owned by Hasbro, okay? And this is a huge change. So Dungeons & Dragons went from TSR, a kind of a cobbled together company that was put together by men who were really very passionate about gaming, right? To Wizards of the Coast, which I would describe as a gaming company with an incredibly skilled businessman, Peter Atkinson, who understood timing and understood finance and was also just generally wise, right? And so it transfers to Wizards of the Coast, and then it goes to Hasbro, and Hasbro is a global company, right? They sell toys across the globe. They're a toy company, right? And Hasbro at this point is, has toys, games. They also have movies. They're connected to lots of intellectual property. And so it's important to understand that this is a massive shift from Wizards of the Coast to Hasbro. It's one of the most fundamental changes in the history of Dungeons & Dragons, right? Now, Alfred Verrecchia is very important in the history of Dungeons & Dragons for having the foresight to see the value in Dungeons & Dragons, right? And actually, it's arguable that Alfred Verrecchia never saw the value in Dungeons & Dragons, but saw the value in Wizards of the Coast, because Magic the Gathering was actually very much commercially more successful than Dungeons & Dragons at the time. And also, even Pokemon, the collectible card gaming license that was held by WotC, was incredibly valuable. So I don't think we'll ever really know, well, I think we kind of do know the answer. I don't think Wizards of the Coast was acquired for Dungeons & Dragons. Dungeons & Dragons was a thing Hasbro got when it purchased Wizards of the Coast, which is a little sad for my heart to, fully embrace. But it is a fact. I actually, it's not a fact. It's where the evidence points, in my opinion, okay? All right. Now, I will say this. Alfred Verrecchia is very important. He is really important because I think the deal doesn't go down. WotC doesn't get bought if Alfred Verrecchia is not behind that purchase, right? Now, I think it's really important to understand, though, that I don't think Alfred Verrecchia is as important in the history of Dungeons & Dragons as Peter Atkinson. What Peter Atkinson did was truly incredible. He brought forward Magic the Gathering, right? And this thing is a multi-million-dollar winner, at every level, right? But then Peter Atkinson, rather than blowing it on, like Arabian horses and yachts, he really was very careful and invested in the company and purchased TSR I think the timing of that purchase was absolutely brilliant. And what it did was it made Wizards of the Coast with the Pokemon with the Pokemon CCG license, with Dungeons and Dragons, and with Magic the Gathering, it made Wizards of the Coast just absolutely a rock star financial purchase target, right? For any savvy global company, which Hasbro was. So I think it's really important that Alfred Verrecchia saw the value in Wizards of the Coast. But I also want to say, I think that if Alfred Verrecchia had not purchased Wizards of the Coast, I think that purchase might have very well come from some other global company pretty close to the time when it happened, right? So my point is, I think there could have been another Alfred Verrecchia. Somebody else could have stepped into that place as global company wise person to just recognize incredible value, right? But with Peter Adkison, man, the timing on what he did, the caution surrounding his actions, it was perfect timing, it was perfect caution, and it was incredible business savvy that allowed him to purchase that allowed him to purchase TSR at exactly the right time. And I have to say, I think he also saw that TSR was in a struggle period, right? It really was. It was in a struggle period. They had hired too many people to work on the game. They had overexpanded at the wrong possible time. They had created products that were not commercially good ideas, Dragon Dice and Spellfire. And Peter Adkison recognized the value of Dungeons and Dragons. And I'll tell you right now, I really think, when you buy TSR, you are getting Dungeons and Dragons. And that's what you want, right? There's really no other, there's no other bread on that. There's no other butter on that toast, right? But when Wizards of the Coast was purchased by Hasbro, that's not the case. Magic the Gathering is an absolute rock star tabletop game, and also the Pokemon CCG license is hugely important, right? Like it's just really, really important, right? So our catalyst is Alfred Verrecchia, and he was a chairman of CEO, and he had been for decades. And I think he was very, it's important that he made that he purchased Wizards of the Coast. But at this point, Dungeons and Dragons is not really the rockstar product it was under TSR. It's just one of several incredibly successful products that exist within the Wizards of the Coast nutshell, okay? What is our location, right? What is our location specifically in 2000? Well, it is the Sedlic Ossuary. Now, the Sedlic Ossuary is in Kudlanakia in the Czech Republic. And this was a sacred church location that was used for the set of the Dungeons and Dragons movie that would come out in the next year, right? So that would come out, and so this was one of the settings that was in the Dungeons and Dragons movie, right? So this is really important, and here we see the Dungeons and Dragons movie coming forward. So there is actually a Dungeons and Dragons movie. It has Damon Wayans in it. It is a commercial and critical failure. The movie was really laughed at. It was not really heralded by anyone as a good movie, and it's not really seen by the makers or the receivers, by the creators or the experiencers as a successful endeavor, which is very sad. And to this day, every Dungeons and Dragons designer, every dungeon master out there, and every Dungeons and Dragons player really hopes that there will be a successful Dungeons and Dragons movie that captures the spirit of the game and catapults Dungeons and Dragons further into the mainstream. It certainly is in the mainstream it peeks its nose into the mainstream. It shows up at the party of the mainstream every now and then, but it really isn't always there, right? Dungeons and Dragons is niche, but it is recognized at the mainstream level, even if it hasn't participated in the mainstream level. Who is our entity for 2000? It is President George Bush, and George W. Bush. His father was George H. Bush, and it's a hugely important turning event in America because it brings up the question of dynasty, We do not have monarchies in America, but we do have political dynasties, and the Bush family with 2 presidents, 2 men, father and son, serving as president of the United States is bringing up the question of, does America accept political dynasties? And it's looking like that answer is yes, right? So that's a big thing, right? All right. What is our artifact for the year 2000? Our artifact for the year 2000 is a tattoo gun. Today, right, in America, it is absolutely not uncommon to see tattoos on anyone and everyone. You can go into your kindergarten, the teacher for the kindergarten teacher for your child can have a butterfly on their arm, right? A police officer can have a sleeve tattoo, right? And like nowadays, tattoos are common as dirt, right? They don't really, but back in 2000, we were closer to the time when tattoos were very countercultural, right? And it's important from a Dungeons & Dragons perspective to realize this, because in some ways, the idea of putting art, which has always been a huge part of the game, directly onto our bodies, and that changing fundamentally in our culture, where actually at this point, I think we're reaching the point where more people have tattoos than don't. I'd be really interested to hear, the fully. Just so you're aware, I have absolutely no tattoos. I've never had a tattoo, and I am planning to die untattooed, right? So, but one of the things is I've seen this transition. Like in the year 2000, people who had tattoos were, in a band or were more likely, right, to be in a band, to own a Harley Davidson, to have a tattoo because they really wanted to stand apart from the culture, right? And now it seems like it's the exact opposite. People really want to have a tattoo because they want to be part of really mainstream culture, and it's a very cultural thing and not a countercultural thing at all anymore. It's really changed, right? And we're seeing that, and the artifact for 2000 is the tattoo gun, because that is that change in the culture is very much happening in the year 2000. What is our relationship for Dungeons & Dragons in the year 2000? The relationship for Dungeons & Dragons in the year 2000 is cosplay. So the Dungeons & Dragons movie would actually show characters that people could cosplay as. There wouldn't be a lot of people who would cosplay as these characters, but there would be a few. And at this point, anime is becoming more and more accepted and fully embraced within America. And cosplay is really starting to get the ball rolling, right? And cosplay for anime becomes a massive, massive industry. And there are conventions all over the U.S. today where literally tens of thousands of people will go and simultaneously cosplay, right? Well, cosplay was also happening in the year 2000 at Gen Con and at Dungeons & Dragons conventions that highlighted Dungeons & Dragons. And then also, at this point, the Mark Reinhagen's World of Darkness LARPs are in full swing. And so there is a major, cosplay area within tabletop role-playing games at this point. And cosplay will have a solid relationship with Dungeons & Dragons in the year 2000, and that will only grow as the future goes forward, right? And so, and I would even say that many people cosplay as Dungeons & Dragons characters. Actually, that is happening right now. I'm 100% right. So, with Critical Role today, you absolutely have a lot of cosplay that is happening with people not cosplaying as their own Dungeons & Dragons character, but cosplaying as the characters you would see on Critical Role. But in the year 2000, cosplay is really getting momentum, and it's not rare. You're seeing it a lot within the TRPG scene. So that is a clear history of the 27th year of Dungeons & Dragons history, the year 2000. The year that Dungeons & Dragons, for the first full year, belongs to Hasbro. It is a critical change in the history of Dungeons & Dragons. And I just wanted to say, please let me know what your thoughts on Dungeons & Dragons in the year 2000 was. Do you think the shift from Wizards of the Coast to Hasbro overall has been good or bad? What are your thoughts there? And then also, Please consider liking and subscribing, and have a wonderful day.